Down to faster Wi-Fi. Now I've got to find myself on my playlist. Find this new live one on the playlist. There we go. I'm there we go. I'm ready. I've got myself online. Got to turn myself down so I can't hear the echo. There. That works good. I got 4 people online already. I'm not even ready yet, but that's cool. Now you can see my iPad, what I'm looking at. You don't need that in the way, but I will check it out every once in a while when I see comments. And there's never a lot of comments at the start of these videos. I kind of wanted to talk about, I don't know, roast some other YouTube channels almost. Not really roast individuals, but sort of general YouTubers. You know, some of the people that are a little bit out there. When I say a little bit out there, I mean, I'm going to try and say it politely, that are somehow not very bright. An awful lot of people on YouTube spend an enormous amount of money building out a van. Now, sometimes I guess if they've done it before, if they make it a profession so that they buy a van at a really good price and then build it out into a really high quality camper or motorhome, whatever, class B, class C, whatever you might want to call it, they might make money. They might make money from their costs, but it would be very hard to get all of your labor back, even if you were doing it professionally. Only if you were building them specifically for an individual and building a custom build could you possibly get your money back if you put lots of money into it. I mean, just as a basis, I bought this bus for less than 5,000 Canadian dollars, which is, that's 75 cents to the dollar. Americans would be paying something like, 3,800 bucks or something, but no more than 4,000. And then everything inside my bus hasn't cost me $1,000 yet. So my total expense for a 100 square foot apartment has been, not much more than $6,000. Now, when I finish it up, I will have put more money into it, but what I'm trying to get at, there's a lot of labor involved, but it's not heavy labor or anything that requires heavy skills. Now, what I'm getting at is that I saw today a couple who bought a relatively new Sprinter, and altogether their costs for their Sprinter and for the equipment and materials they used in the labor, because they paid to have it done, they paid $120,000. And my mind doesn't get this. If you build a house on a piece of property, the house deteriorates every day or every year as you own it. The house goes down in value because it's never worth as much as a new one. Your vehicle always goes down in value. So you really don't have any chance of making money unless you manage to buy the vehicle cheaply and do the renovations very cheaply. Then you can possibly sell it for a little bit more than you bought it for, because then it appears to be worth more relative to another brand new one. Anyway, in a very simple a class that I took in sometime like grade 8 or grade 9, which was actually it was a simple class. It was called Business Administration or something like that, General Business, something like that. They taught me that real property, like gold and property, land can't disappear. Well, it can if we have global warming and the water comes in, but don't buy waterfront. You won't have a problem. Land will always go up in value. not necessarily in a very short term. There could be cycles, but in the long term, land will always go up in value. The house that's on it deteriorates. So you can buy, like if the land doesn't go up as fast as the house deteriorates, you could actually lose money buying a home. So, but what I'm trying to say is that, if real property is gold, silver, something that can't be converted to something else, something that exists and cannot be changed and does not deteriorate in any form. Like gold's gold, silver is silver, land is land. Those things will always go up in value. Land goes up like in Vancouver at a crazy extent. But vehicles always deteriorate, always lose money, and homes always lose money. You can buy one and fix it up and make money, but it's always a matter of labor and stuff like that. It's unlikely you can take an old house and make it so up to date that it's worth more than a brand new one. Anyway, that's today's lecture. So I'm going to look at some of the comments. Asheville Moving. How many coffee breaks can one take? Oh God, this is still the same coffee. And actually, I went there because I had a sore tummy. So now I've driven down the road about 2 blocks, and across the street is a Tim Hortons that I can run into if I need to use the bathroom. So the reason I'm hanging around at some place other than the beach is so that I can do the live, and I can visit a bathroom if I have to in a hurry. Contrary to many people's belief, we don't always poop in a bag. Not always. In fact, I haven't done that since where was I? I think in the Arizona desert at the RTR. I think it was that long. So it's almost 6 months I haven't pooped in a bag. Most of the time I find a washroom that is going to make pooping more enjoyable. Oh, okay, somebody said, there you are. Ouch, Greg G is ouch about the Sprinter. Yeah, Greg, these guys just kept saying yes to stuff that they sort of thought they wanted, and they, just kept buying and buying and buying, and installing anything, and because they had it done professionally, some of those professionals clearly, convinced them to buy the most expensive things instead of the more practical items. Sunseeker, I'm nearly done with basic bus build. Right around 1K to convert, except for tires. Yeah, that's the vehicle cost. My tires cost me $250 to $300 each. When I first bought the bus, the inspector said the bus is great, you just have to buy tires. So I bought the bus, and I remember I said it was like under $5,000. Well, before I could convert it to a consumer type vehicle, and before I could insure it, I had to have it inspected. That inspection cost me like $500 because it's a bus. And the biggest expense of that was to buy 4 new tires for the back, which is $1,200 installed. So, imagine if you had spent $100,000 on your vehicle and then had to immediately spend a couple of thousand more to get it fixed. That's the scenario these other people might be in. So, hey, Sunseeker, how much was your bus? And how big is your bus? Is yours short like mine? Or did you buy one of those big guys? MM Chevy. MMM Chevy says, hello from Dallas. I think you're sweltering in heat down there. Like I'm way up in Vancouver in Canada, where it's always sort of mellow in terms of temperature, and it's almost too hot for me. I'm sitting in the bus with all the windows on that side closed because that's where the traffic's going by, and maybe you can see my door over here is open just a bit. So I've got the door open, and I don't have the window up, the driver's side window open, so I don't have a big breeze, but it's, still reasonably comfortable. But if I sat here for hours and I closed that door, I'd be really uncomfortable really fast. Viking Van Man, there you are, my friend, he says. Well, yeah, here I am, drinking Starbucks. This is this like people should actually, the YouTubers should actually show what real van life or schoolie life is actually about. An awful lot of the time we're wondering what the hell we're going to do unless we have a job to do. Like I go and make a video each day, or they might be online with an online job building websites or something like that. So a lot of them will sit down and work all day and then make a video, and then basically their home life is not much different from a life in anybody's home, except that I could park it outside at Tim Hortons if I want, wherever the Wi-Fi happens to be. Tina Lindquist says, journeys and journeys. I'm sad to hear about Becky. I don't know who Becky is. I think I saw Camo Dave today or something post a video about Becky, but I don't know who Becky is. I watch a few YouTube channels, mostly new YouTubers that are doing van life. The reason I'm watching the new ones is so that I can support other YouTubers. Often I find, I'm not really enthusiastic about the videos, and I'm not, in other words, I'm not looking forward to the next one, but they're starting out, and I like to support the people that are starting out. And many of them are my friends. I've met them, they're starting, and they're, just not doing too well yet. Sunseeker says, mine's shorter, a 4-window, and costs $6K, but it's in top shape. Yeah, everybody asks about how much buses cost, but if a bus is in really good shape, the buses are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars new, and then they're used for a bunch of years. And I think companies excuse me, I think companies often sell them for more or less what they're worth now after they've been written off. Tina says, basically the comment was doubled. Unless she's back in, Becky and Bernie and Hank. She passed away. Oh, okay. I'm sorry to hear your friend passed away. Is Becky anyway, I'll assume Becky was a YouTuber because like I say, Camo Dave mentioned that somebody had passed away. Badge. Hey there, buddy. The bus, how's it? Oh, Gus in the bus, how's it go? The funny part is it says Gus in the bus at the beginning, and I read some of that. What a dickhead. I'm doing good, Badge. How are you? I thought you might already have met her or in the meetup. No, I don't. Like I meet people, but they have to be obvious to me that they want me to meet me. I just don't drive up to every van dweller and say, "Hi, I'm Gus in the bus." Like it, most of the time I'm intruding we should have, if we don't already have it, we should be able to understand that everybody who is living in their vehicle has parked their vehicle, that's their home, and you don't go knocking on the door any more often than you would if there was somebody, you were driving down the street and you stopped and you went, oh, there's somebody else with a red house, I'll go knock on the door. You don't do that. So we don't all meet each other unless we're actually open and outgoing. So when I park, it's like for example, I have my door open. Some people will come along and talk to me. Actually, a minute ago, somebody with what's the right word? Some sort of mental disability came along and asked me if my bus was going to go to a specific location because they thought this was a transit bus. But most of the time people stop to say, hey, what's it like living in that bus? That kind of stuff. But unless somebody talks to me, I won't be meeting other van dwellers. And like, how many can you follow? I probably follow about 75 different YouTube channels, and maybe 80% of them are, van dweller type channels. And I'll be watching them partly to keep up to date with them, but mostly to get ideas for my own channel. Because some days you just, like the last few days, I've just had total mental block. I don't want to just come on and start to talk about, like I said, that I don't want to make a video about idiots who bought an old bus and spent $100,000 fixing it up. I don't want to talk about those people. That's pretty negative. But I think in the YouTube groupings, especially amongst schoolies, there's a lot of people that buy a schoolie, totally rip it out, and then replace all the stuff they ripped out. I've got a ceiling here. It's a metal ceiling. It's been here for 20 years and it doesn't leak. If I took it out, I would increase the potential for it to leak by about 100% probably. If I started to insulate it, and then I put up something like wood, I wouldn't be able to wash it. When I cook in here, and when you cook inside any van, unless all the windows are open or you've got lots of seriously good ventilation, like a stove fan, like they put in homes, you're going to end up with, especially if you burn your potatoes like I do, you're going to end up with smoke up there. If it's moist, then and then if you go from a sort of moist area and there's dust around, the dust sticks to the ceiling. So there's no way to wash a wooden ceiling. And these guys building buses will put up a wooden ceiling. I personally don't get it. There's no way to keep it clean. And it probably increases the chance of mold by 10,000%. So the things that they're trying to avoid, they actually probably create an environment that makes it easier for all that to happen. Anyway, there's Mr. Critical about everybody else talking now. Batch might be able to answer some of those questions when people ask him. But I don't know, maybe he likes wood ceilings. What do you think, Batch? Sandy, well, you're back. Yeah, I saw your note about missing me. Now I'm back. Journeyman, she drove a Journeyman. I don't want to hear about this person who is no longer with us. I'm talking, like, I don't want to talk about people who died yesterday that I never knew, that I've never seen, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. That's a subject that you should talk to with people who knew her or cared. And when I say cared, I care if people die, but I can't care about everybody I've never met who died. I find is a little wet. Oh, you find that it's a little wet here, but it's all good. Yeah, it's wet in this area, but it's not too bad this time of year. I think we've had the last few days a little bit of rain every morning, just a little bit. Then the clouds are burned off, and it's been sunny and warm. And Sunseeker, love my original metal. Oh yeah, so it's Sunseeker, do you feel the same way about changing it to something else? It takes me 10 minutes to wash this entire ceiling and make it gleaming like it was brand new. It just washes off really easy, like it was, well, probably easier than the glass. The glass is harder to keep clean than the ceiling. I think I'm roping the roof. I think I'm roping the roof out. It costs a lot. Oh, he's going to rip the roof out. It costs lots of money. And you agree of how much it is the gain. Yeah, the grit. Anytime you do work inside something, like a work inside a vehicle, I don't think you'll ever get it back. But many people are buying buses, and then early on, like 2 years ago, I saw a couple who had bought a bus that's probably a $5,000 bus, because that's roughly what they cost, most of the used ones. and they were going to put 30,000 in it, and I was thinking, it's a $5,000 bus. Duh. It's not going to be worth more than $5,000. It can only be worth the equivalent price for the same age vehicle that is a motorhome, because what they've done is turn the bus into a motorhome. Now those motorhomes that are that age are only worth 15,000. So why put 30,000 into making yours like the best old motorhome there is? Ripping, yeah, I got that batch. I don't have my glasses, and if I did put them, the glasses that I have now are so scratchy. I've got to go as soon as I finish this. I should go out to the what do you call it, the pharmacy, and buy some glasses. Sunseeker, yes, super easy to, yes, yeah. Sunseeker's the same. Super easy to wipe down and keep this thing clean, and it's been like, like I said, there's two layers of on a bus. There's a stud more or less, or a ceiling joist. It's an inch and a bit thick, and there's a thin strip of aluminum on top and a thin strip of aluminum on the bottom. And for 20 years, if the top leaked, it would have hit the bottom, the inside skin, and dripped down between the walls. If I took this out and there was a leak on the outside skin, then I would be having to fix a leak. And leaks aren't easy to fix because you don't know exactly where they are, and you can just just throw all kinds of sealant and crap on there and still not get the leak. So that's why I have the same skin up there. So yours is a 5.7 Vortex gasser. Who makes that? A Chev? 5.7 liter Vortex gas engine? Is that what you mean? So I've been hanging out on the beach with Chrome and with Jasper. Jasper went off to Victoria. Chrome is probably going to be leaving, I guess, in the next day or so and head up into the interior. And I'll be moving later in the month, after the 20th. On the 20th, I will I do a photo shoot in Vancouver, and then later on that week, I do a couple in an area called Maple Ridge, which is a town about it's 40 or 50 miles east of here, and I'm going to be camping out in that area while I'm there. Not necessarily in the town of Maple Ridge, but I think there's some campgrounds or some nice lakes and things like that I can go and hang out at. And then I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm either going to go up into our interior, which is Kelowna and Penticton, which is the Okanagan, or I'm going to go over to Vancouver Island and visit Victoria and Nanaimo. But it'll kind of depend on where I have photo shoots. I've been to both areas, so if I don't end up with photo shoots on the island, there's no point in me spending the money to go there. I can just drive down the coast and visit someplace in Washington or Northern Oregon. Maybe you guys have some places I should go visit. I'd really like to find some really interesting spots, because right now I'm, at the same beach all the time, which is fine. I would be at any other beach. I would travel to more beaches, but they ask me for parking everywhere, and it's about, I think it can be about $4 to $6 an hour. So to make a video at another beach in Vancouver, it's going to cost me. And the truth is, I'll give you an example. I went to a museum the other day. That cost me $22 to go to the museum, and I did it. I've been there before, so I did it specifically for YouTube. And that's one of my least favorite or least viewed videos. In other words, I get I'll have more views from this live stream than and just sitting in the bus at the side of the road holding an iPad. I'll get more views in my live stream than I will from that visit to the Anthropology Museum, the Museum of Anthropology, which was all Indian artifacts and Indian history. It's really interesting. I think it's interesting. It's stuff that you can't see unless you actually go there. And I did that on purpose. But my YouTube audience doesn't care to watch it. And when I say my audience is only about 200 people, even though there's, what do you call it? Even though the subscribers count is 2,000 something, those people subscribe, but for whatever reason, they're not watching my videos. So whenever you hear YouTubers talking about subscribers, it's more important to look at how many views they get. The other thing is, if I have a girl that is, how would I put it, in a thin t-shirt and it's chilly out, I'll get a lot of views compared to the other videos, but still not enough to make even those things worth it. This YouTube business is pretty weird. Okay, RV Monkeys, I'm going to get a big Bluebird bus. And I have a 7.5 by 8 insulated room to live in, a bathroom. The rest will be garage for projects around 6,000. Yeah, if you can find a place to park the big bus, I mean, if you're good at finding places for it, that'd be awesome. I would have bought one, except that, look where I am now. I'll show you. I'm just parked on the city street between two parking meters. And I'm hoping that the meter lady doesn't come by. I haven't put any money in it yet, but if I'm in here talking, she'll probably say, "Sir, you haven't put any money in the meter," and I'll stick it in, and then we'll be fine. Or maybe I should actually look. Nope, I don't have a ticket. So sometimes when I say things will happen, they often don't happen that way. Somebody just sneaks up, sticks a ticket on there, and doesn't say anything to me. But I'm talking about a ticket, but I've only gotten like 5 in 2 years. They're usually small amounts, but that means that if I paid all those tickets, which I don't, I haven't paid any of them, but if I did pay them all and I slept for 708, well, now it would be like 800 nights, and all of those tickets were $100, I'd still only be paying 75 cents a night to park. So parking tickets are really unimportant issue for us, those who are in vans and a vehicle that will fit. But a big bus, that's like, oh, come give me a ticket. So as long as you find places that, like somebody's yard or a work area, something like that, an industrial location, then you can park the bus. But it's really, or a long bus, but it's really difficult to park it in a city. Mike Brown. Hey guys, hi Mike. Oh, John mainly asked if I need a special license to drive this. This is a Ford E350. It's no different from a Ford van, but it has a different box on the back, so you need no license for this. But you might need a special license if you've got a 30-footer or a bus that uses air brakes. I think that's the rule. I'm sure I can drive any vehicle with standard brakes. I haven't ever been, unless I shouldn't even say that because I don't know. I haven't studied lately what the requirements are for a bigger vehicle. But when I was younger, you just needed an air brake ticket to drive like a highway tractor and any other vehicle, even a huge earth mover. Boy, not many questions coming through here. 24 people either maybe online now or have been online. I'm not sure what that means. Oh, Sandy, thanks for watching the museum video. It's actually very hard to do that because the light's quite dim and there's a lot of people walking around in the museum, and you don't want to you want to actually focus on a specific item, and doing that without a lot of people in there in the background. You know, they're walking around chit-chatting, kids running around, stuff like that. It's very hard to simply make the video about the artifacts and not all the crowd of people that's there. So Mike, how are you? You're pretty consistent in my live videos. Thanks for coming around and supporting me the way you do. My iPad's falling out of its holder, so that's why I'm paying so much attention down here. I'm trying to get it gripped a bit better. I was talking to a friend the other day because I had lost my iPad is on a holder like this, like a tripod, and I had lost it the other day. And I went to my coffee shop, said, "Where's my tripod?" And they went, "Oh, it's in the lost and found." I was very happy to see that things you leave lying around are sometimes left, you know, sometimes treated respectfully, and the people who found it didn't just take it away. That always makes me feel good. Means I'm going to a high-end coffee shop, I think. Because the low-end ones, this is weird. Now I can't figure out how to tighten this up. Oh well. I'll hold on to it instead of expecting the holder to hold it. So where are we in the list of comments? Oh, okay. Brian says that when I look out up there and see 25, that means that there's 25 people watching right now. That's cool. And Viking Van Man said the same thing. Oh, and Mike Brown is supporting fellow Canadians. That's true. We actually have to support each other, but in reality, I think Canadians are very proud of each other. When I say that because we're proud of many things in our country, but I think we're more proud of the people that are here than other I don't think Americans are proud of Americans. Not that they should be ashamed or anything like that, but I don't think that they're as confident that like we are in Canada, that most Canadians are pretty good people. I think most Americans are great people. They're very, very generous, right? I don't know how to put that. I think Canadians are nice, but we would be nice and polite, but I don't think we'd just go buy you a donut or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Whereas Americans are like, "Hey, come on over for dinner. I'm going to make you dinner. I want to make you dinner. You got to come. Don't cook your own. Come to my place." They're really, really, really generous people. But strange, though, that they're not necessarily, you know, there are some that aren't nice. And that around the world they have a reputation of being sort of maybe boisterous and arrogant, maybe. But, you know, they're very, very, very generous people. Oh, Sailor. Hey there. I haven't seen you for, how long is that now? I think I met Sailor on Pacific Coast Highway just outside of Los Angeles, and he was in his van just about to leave to go back east. Where are you now? I'm trying to get my damn iPad to stop falling out of the container, but it's not going to do that. Hey Mike, thanks for the super chat. More gas or coffee? Well, I think I keep putting this. I think in terms super chats just go straight into gas, because coffee I get kind of anyway. You know what I mean? It's going to happen for sure, but I can't drive anywhere unless that money goes into like a gas fund or a diesel fund, I guess you'd call it. Because what happens is I quickly run out of my budget for diesel, so I can't go very far each month. At 10 miles to the gallon, you know, it's just pouring money out. So I've got to drive short distances and find neat and interesting places to visit, like every 50 miles. That'd be the best scenario for me. Oh yeah, you want to help me out with those Swift sausages? I don't need any more sausages. I've got put myself on something, not a diet, but because I eat a lot of food, it would never be what other people call a diet. I would, just cut down a little bit on some of the fatty foods that I have. Oh, and Lucky says, I don't know if you're a guy or a gal, so I don't know how. Lucky says, "Hi Gus, I've subscribed to your channel since you were in Southern California. I love it down there. Actually right now the weather in Vancouver is just like LA in December. Well, except that we're warmer at night a bit." Well, Sailor says Americans have fallen off. I don't think so. No, you got a weirdo president, but that's the only dude that the world thinks is crazy. Well, some of the people that voted for him maybe, but you know what I'm saying. When I say the world thinks is crazy, it's pretty obvious actually that you know the very few American presidents would have people like in Britain on the street complaining that he's visiting. Very few of them. And if they were, I can't think of any in the past. The same in Canada. There would be very few people that really have a negative opinion of the American president. But at the moment, a lot of the world have a very negative opinion of Mr. Trump. I don't care. I don't even care. For a while there, I didn't even know what our prime minister's name was. I'm like apolitical. Lucky says Long Beach is sadly in your rearview mirror, but Long Beach was just awesome. That whole area, I think we have a Long Beach because it's 7 miles long. That area around Long Beach looks like a 50 miles of beach. Beautiful beach. Like awesome beach. And 50 miles of homes along the beach. It's all developed up. Sam D says, I'm in North Carolina mountains enjoying a long rain, or a week-long rain. The kitchen gardens the kitchen. What's a kitchen garden? Or you mean your food garden? Vegetable garden? I guess that's what it would be. I don't know what a kitchen garden would be. See, little things like that cause my brain to just go crazy because what is a kitchen garden? John Mainly, how do you protect yourself? I don't have, look, I'm 70 years old, so very few people want to hassle me. Like, people just don't go down the street and go, oh, I'm going to beat up an old man. When they look at my bus, they don't go, wow, there's a lot of real expensive stuff in there that we should steal. It's an understated van. I don't park like right now I'm parked in probably one of the richest areas in Vancouver. I'm not parked in the low end where people are breaking into vehicles all the time. When I'm sleeping, I don't even lock my doors. I don't care. If somebody comes in and goes, oh, look, they're going to wake up to a bear, a bad bear, a grizzly bear. They won't want to be locked in my bus with me, I'll tell you. Even though I'm 70 and I'm not all that strong, that guy will be in bad shape when he crawls out of here. It's just the way it is. So I don't walk around in fear anywhere, even in the States. No matter where I am, I feel safe as hell. And maybe it's because no one has ever attacked me in my entire life. Or, like, not seriously. Little guys did. I don't know how to put it. I've never been in a serious kind of squabble or a serious fight. Mostly because when other men tried to intimidate me, they always backed down. And I don't know why that is, but I don't want to know what I'm like when I'm angry. And if I don't want to know, maybe other people don't want to know either. I'm actually always, and I do my best to be a nice guy, but now and then I have to be more intimidating than the other dude. In other words, A-type personality guy. A kitchen garden is a farming term. It's a garden the home eats from. Basically eats from. Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. I would call it a vegetable garden, and I wouldn't say that that's a Canadian term. Could be, English term or something. But I've just never heard of a kitchen garden. But it makes sense. Sailor and his dog says, "We vote the popular. You voted the popular guy, and you needed a change." Yeah, I don't want to. I can talk a little bit about politics, but I don't want to get into it very much because it just causes people to argue, and especially in the States, there's great fight. However, in Canada, we've got a lot of copycats. You know what I honestly can't stand is that we have a prime minister. He's actually elected. He's elected by his own party to be the leader of the party, and then after we vote for the entire, we vote their party in power, just like you do. We count the number of people that got into Parliament, and whichever party had the most seats, their leader becomes the prime minister. Well, the prime minister is never a bad dude. Like your president is, you can say all you want. He represents your country, and to some degree, the people in the country have to support him to some degree. Not about everything, but some degree. But here in Canada, we've got a prime minister that does, if he stubs his toe, there's going to be people that says he's a dunce. Well, what kind of person is trying to be honest by saying that, the most extremely negative things about somebody and using, he stubbed his toe, so he must have an IQ of a 2-year-old. That's the kind of argument that most of these political arguments seem to be. Just go to the most extreme and, base it on the stupidest things. I'm done with politics. Don't talk to me about it. Your baby came early, Mr. Moon. What's your baby? Do you have a baby, or is that your vehicle? I would never call my bus my baby. Gus, I just became a patron of mine. Thank you, Brian. That's cool. I need to get I need the patrons to message me or something. Tell me what I can do to, to provide you with something that's unique or something that's different. Not, in other words, something special to thank you. Because the patrons are I don't have very many, and I don't know what to do at the moment, and I don't want to do the wrong things. Like, I originally thought at one time my channel would be popular because I photographed pretty girls, so I was going to have lots of pretty girls on it. And then I found that YouTube won't monetize them, and then I thought, well, I'll put those videos make them special just for patrons. And I don't, at the moment there's only a few people there, so it's like less than $10 a month, and I don't know what to do, and without it being way overboard. In other words, for me anyway, it has to be in accordance to the kind of revenue that the patrons are bringing in. So if they were at like $500, I could do a lot of stuff. But if it's at $10, it's really hard to figure out something that I can give those patrons in return for their support. I'd like to have a lot more, but I'm just not expecting too many. Maybe it's because I don't expect much of it at the moment. But thanks for becoming a patron. In reality, if I had 500 patrons with a buck, I would be able to do another 1,000 miles every month, which would enable me to go right across Canada and all the way around the United States and visit every place. Oh, Sandy wants to talk about sunsets. Sandy, that is. And it's funny because I went down to shoot the sunset the other day, and I was going to make a whole video about what photographers have to go through in order to get a good sunset, because it was cloudy and they were kind of stormy, and if the sun at the last minute shone through a little bit at the bottom, in other words, if the clouds only went out 30 miles or something, the sun would reflect off all those clouds at sunset. And so I went down there, sat in the rain. I was laying down, and a wave came up over me, and my almost took my cameras, but did cause me to lose one of my batteries. And I was going to tell a big story about how hard it is to get a good shot of a great sunset, but the sunset never happened. So there I was making a story about how to get a great sunset, and the sunset didn't turn out great. Well, that's one of the things that's funny about planning a YouTube video, is that almost every time I plan for something to happen, it doesn't happen. What else we got on here? We got Mr. Moon. Oh, you gave her a hippie name. Gee, Mr. Moon, now you're answering about what your baby is, and I don't know what your baby is, but you gave her a hippie name to fit your future lifestyle. Summer. Now, see, the message has scrolled away, so now I don't see it anymore. Lucky, I think it's $1 a month minimum. Yeah, my Patreon is $1 a month a month per person. Yeah. And Dagman, Sandy is a Dagman. I guess that you're saying damn or dag it about my sunset. I like shooting sunsets, and it's probably because I started shooting models at sunset and models in the sunrise, or models anytime but the middle of the day. I mean, I can shoot them in the middle of the day, but the backgrounds are terrible. It's just like a blue sky. When I say the backgrounds are terrible, a blue sky is not bad. It's just that it's a blue sky. It's just a blue sky. There's no fountain, no life to it. And if it's not blue in Vancouver, it's usually gray because there's too much cloud. Lucky, you go to the description on any video and you'll find my Patreon link. That's kind of sort of standard, I guess, for YouTubers to put links to different things that they are associated with down in the description. Summer Willow Moon Human. Mr. Moon says Summer Willow Moon Human Girl. I don't know what to say because I don't know what you mean. Oh, and Mike, you helping me out like you do Chrome, eh? Messaging or answering some of the questions for me, which is cool. That's neat. Because I can't read all the, what happens. I can't read them all. I only see like 10 messages here, and then I'm done. And part of the reason is because I've got a half a message. I had a half a message. There's a message bar, my message bar in the way. Oh, you guys are having your own congratulations on your baby girl, Mr. Moon. Did you have a baby girl? If so, congratulations. I don't, yeah, because of the nature of this channel, I don't, when you say a baby, that might be a van, might be a baby, could be a girl, could be a boy. I'm just often very lost. And Mr. Moon, why don't you tell me if you had a baby girl or a vehicle, like you bought a vehicle? I'm going going to actually look at the message right away, like try and catch it, because I don't know. I've got two boys, but they're now pretty grown up. They're my oldest is 39 now. My wife, my wife is your baby. I'm getting my school bus. Oh, no, I don't know. I'm getting my school bus at the end of the summer. So the school bus is your baby. Great. Were you the one with the 35-footer? And Brian, you're welcome. Thanks. So the messages are actually seem to be a conversation between Brian and Mr. Moon. I'm going to scroll back a bit. Brian Rose, every time I plan to go to training, either blizzard, snow, thunderstorm, black clouds over my trip planning. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of in Vancouver, the weather is simply not predictable. So when I do plan to do something in a certain weather condition, I can't be sure until I check the weather like an hour before, and then it's pretty good. It says if it's going to rain, it'll say no participation for the next hour and a half, and then it'll tell me it's going to rain like 2 hours from now, and they're pretty good with that. But it's really hard for them to be correct from one day to the next, although they do a pretty good job. What time is it where I'm at? It's 4:53, Saturday, June 8th, according to my iPad, which is probably correct. I don't know how long I've been on. I wonder if there's a timer up there. 51 minutes. That's it. This might be a record in terms of time. And I have 19 people online now, so I lost a few. I'm not all that good. I really don't know how to get these lives to go crazy or anything like that in terms of numbers. But I'm really always very happy if I get 25 or 30 people. It's kind of cool. Maybe people. Are you able to share it? Are you guys able to share my live? Maybe somebody can tell me whether you can or not. I don't know. No, I'm looking at on my iPad. There's no possibility of that. It's yeah, pretty weird. That's probably the only thing you can't share. Mr. Moon is asking me what's my strength as a photographer and what's your favorite subject? Well, my subjects, I like to shoot people because I can direct them very well. I give them a very good, fun experience. So when people ask about strengths, like if you're talking about my strength with the camera, I don't think I have any. But I have what I do is take an ordinary person, a completely ordinary person, and help them look extraordinary in a photo. I create a fantasy, and I shoot these people with different equipment than almost everybody else. Just as an example, most people doing the kind of work that I do would use a 70 to 200 lens, and mine is something like, I don't even remember what it is. It's the top end is 70 millimeters. It's something like 1870 or 2570, something like that, on a cropped sensor. So when I shoot people, because I've basically got a wide angle lens or near wide angle, I can distort portions of them. In other words, I'll give you an example. Look at this. If I look like this, I'm going to have a larger forehead. If I look like this, I'm going to have a larger chin because of the nature of this lens. But if I used a 70 millimeter lens, then I'm so far away, no one would notice this distortion. It's much like my hand is huge here, but it's very small when it's back there. It's really small back there because it's behind my head. So perspective enables us to change the size of things in our photo. Like I could make my ear really big. I'm just joking. Or my nose. How could I make my nose like longer? But I could also, just putting my head up and down, I can change the shape, make my chin look bigger or smaller. And depending on how close I get, I can make my face actually, in a sense, look wider. So I can create distortions, and what I'm good at is creating this sort of fantasy. Like essentially every one of the girls that I shoot, who when I see them, I go, well, she's pretty ordinary. And then when they go home and I look at the photos, I go, wow, she's beautiful. But it's because of how I work with them. So my strength as a photographer is actually a people skill, and maybe my way of using my tricks with perspective. But what was the rest of the question now? Well, somebody said creating a fantasy is a strength, but what I'm really trying to do is flatter my subject as much as possible in the manner that they want to be flattered. So, for example, the girls that are going to the gym every day and entering these fitness contests, what they're trying to achieve is a larger butt, like a larger, stronger butt with zero jiggle. In other words, they want to have like an iron butt. Well, if they sit on a log, everybody is going to have if they sit on a flat surface, for example, everybody will have a flat looking butt, and it won't look round and won't look like iron anymore. So I help them figure out how to sit so that they look strong and not flabby. How's that? Give you a good example. In other words, no matter how they're posing, no matter what they're doing, I'm thinking about the goal. The goal is to show, for fitness people, the goal is to show them being very strong. The other thing, and the reason I don't shoot sort of fashion styles very much is because fashion people want to see that girl be really diminutive and small, and they seldom seek confidence and strength. They're actually looking to make that girl look little boyish. In like real fashion, that's what they do. Like fashion shows, they pick girls that look like boys, and I believe it's because the males like boys. The male designers, the male leaders in that industry are like boys instead of girls. It might sound terrible, but that's my way of looking at things. So I honestly think the photography that I do with girls in bikinis is cleaner than most fashion stuff. Cleaner in terms of it's more honest, and it's how would I put it? It's actually sort of rejoicing a woman's frame instead of trying to hide it and make it small. Maybe that's the best way to put it. So I think I help women feel more, not all women, but the women that I work with feel more confident and more comfortable in their skin. Anyway, creating a fantasy is a strength. Yeah, camera with that camera. Oh yeah, with the camera. Well, you can't create a fantasy. I can't create a fantasy other ways. I'm not really good at that. Never get. Oh, do I ever get? Mike Brown is saying, do I ever get paid photo shoots? I made my living for 15 years doing photo shoots. But over that period of time, the kind of photography I'm doing is, how I put it, is in less demand. When I go to the beach and photograph one of the girls that I am shooting, I basically do it for free in the United States because I'm not allowed to charge anyway. But when I go to the beach, I see two girls taking turns shooting each other with iPhones. And that's that's the standard for most Instagram. What would you call them? They're Instagram influencers. It's just a person with an iPhone taking a picture, and they're not models. They have no skill posing. They're just standing there. So there's none of them could be. None of those typical influencers could be fashion models, and they couldn't be making money and as a model because they don't represent actually anything other than average. So people who represent the average person or the average girl do not sell products. So they're never going to be. Those people are almost never going to be a model or a uh, or they can be influencers, but they won't be what I like models in magazines and that sort of thing. Now the thing is that since that's what society wants now is sort of just a crappy photo of a reasonably pretty or average girl, if that's all society needs to make those girls rich, or not rich, but to help create their living, then they have no reason to buy photos from a photographer. So what I used to do, and where I was making my money, is producing images that were outstanding, that look like they would be that looked like they would be in a magazine. So, and then sometimes they would be, but it was primarily so that the model or my client could promote herself with very high quality images. But now they promote themselves with just an iPhone picture. So there's almost no possibility I would make a lot of money as a photographer now. And like I said, I used to make about $60,000 a year. In fact, I did have one client that paid me, what would it be, 17 times four, well, $6,500 a month to photograph eight people, to promote her business. So it has been a very profitable thing for me, but the potential with clients has just dropped down to like nearly zero. In fact, some of those people that I would shoot would immediately turn around and charge other photographers some money because my photos were good enough that those girls would then charge like they would be models. They would get photos to be models, and then they would make a living as a model. But now their girlfriend can shoot them with an iPhone, and then new photographers who can't, I don't know how to put it. They're new and they don't know that just an iPhone photo isn't what makes a model. So they're paying them. A girl can shoot her girlfriend, then that girl becomes a model because the photographer's inexperienced. And there's a billion photographers out there running around trying to shoot every girl they see for free. So it's not a business anymore. Mr. Moon, I'm not good. I'm not good at photographing people. I have a tendency to focus on their lines and shoot dark. You're welcome to critique my work. Your Moonbro 4. Oh, Moonbro 4 is your channel? Why isn't it Mr. Moon? So I could click a link. If you can find my email address down in the description, can you put your website or a link to your work down there? I'll go look at it, but I don't actually want to go critique it because I can critique the glamour style photos that I take, and I might be able to critique some others sort of in a general manner. But as long as it's really clear what the photo's about and what the photo's trying to say, I can't imagine any critique because everybody's got a different style to make that happen. But that's the criteria. Every photo should be very clear why it was taken. In other words, if I took a photo up the street here, you should be able to tell which car I focused on and why that was the most important car. If it was about or tree, what I'm saying is the most important thing everybody should be able to know what that's about and why it's there. That's the only, um, for me, that's the only thing that I would ever be looking at, because cameras vary and concepts vary, and I try to create a fantasy, and somebody is complaining that I create a fantasy and I should have shot something that was real. That's kind of a dumb, because they like real. And the reality is, I never shoot for somebody else. I'm shooting a photo that girl and I want, and everybody else's opinion is like squat. Who gives a shit what somebody else wanted? They're not even there, and we're not shooting for them. But a lot of people actually come up with comments like that, like, "Oh, I would rather that she was wearing a red bathing suit instead of the black one." What's the word? Fuck you. I don't know how else to say that. Then it's like a great big fuck you. Why would anybody say such a thing? I prefer. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? So critics or people offering critiques are often just, they're out there somewhere. I don't even know. Um, a photographer can critique another photographer based on the rules of photography. But if they both know the rules, the actual photographer can critique it as well as I can. Point and shoot phone photography sucks. Well, Mr. Boone, it does suck, but I gotta tell you the truth. There are hundreds and hundreds of people in Vancouver who buy tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment in order to take a photo, and because they don't really know how to deal with people, they take shitty, sucky pictures. Worse than a girlfriend might have taken of them. And the reason why a girl's girlfriend is not a good photographer is because she already knows that girl. She already sort of has an idea in mind about what that girl can and could be. And it's seldom a fantasy. In other words, they take a real photo of them. What I actually do is I actually try to reach potential beyond. Like, in other words, I try to create this fantasy that's actually beyond reality, so that they stand out. Now, everybody's got a different approach. A lot of people just love those sort of natural, no pose photos, and they're pretty good. I like them too, but they don't make that girl stand out. They just make her look ordinary. The same with anybody else, unless the intention is to make them stand out and be different and unique and somehow special. They're just going to look ordinary. And in fact, most people taking a photo make a victim of the person they took the photo of. Like the most, people that aren't thinking. Where you see somebody, you might see a person standing like at a viewpoint or something with a great valley behind them. Well, the person taking the photo actually spends more time looking at the valley behind them and spends no time looking to see if that person's got their finger up their ass or something dumb. So they don't actually ever spend any time helping that person pose and look better. Maybe that's the best explanation. A lot of photographers actually create victims of their subjects. What about doing like wedding shoots or something? No, weddings are like a special deal. First of all, I was married and I was divorced, and when we got married, neither she nor I believed in marriage, and we got, maybe that's why we got a divorce, but neither of us thought marriage was important or that marriage was going to change anything. We got married because we wanted to have the same name for our kids, so the whole family would have the same name, or at least that's why I got married. And it's not because I didn't love my wife at the time. Certainly I did. It's just that marriage meant nothing to us. We lived together for 10 years. So when I go to a wedding, first of all, what is it? 70% of marriages, it's about 70 or 80% of the marriages are over in 7 years. They only last 7 years. Marriages only last 7 years, with very few exceptions. And if you take that 70% and then imagine that all of those 70 people went and got married again, you know, 70% of the second marriages fail too. So if I think of going to a wedding, I'm more likely to be laughing at how silly this whole scenario is. And I'm not, because it's, like, I'm a romantic person, but marriage is not romantic. The other thing is, I would never want to work for the bridezilla, the woman who is, like, you know, so worried about everything being perfect that and, like, basically picking on me, um, or complaining about me because I failed to shoot the cake at the right angle or something. So I don't want to do that. Photography was all about having fun and not about adding stress to my life. RV Mikey, oh yeah, I shoot the light. You saw that one, eh? That's actually the most important video, at least for photographers, that I created. Uh, and it's more instructive for all new photographers, people who pick up their iPhone and want to go out and take some nice pictures. If they actually look at the light rather than the tree, or the light rather than the dog, or the light rather than the car, they'll know how to take that picture better. It's just the cameras record light. They're just like a sound recorder that records sound. We know if the sound is shitty, we're going to get a bad recording. But when we're taking a picture, if we think we're taking a picture, we're dead wrong. We're recording the light. So the light's the very most important thing in every image. Enough of this stuff about photography. I don't really try to teach. I don't think I'm qualified to teach people photography. It's been a hobby. It was a profession because it ended up to be a profession, not because I tried to be. I didn't start out trying to be a photographer at any time. It just happened. People started phoning me up and paying me to take pictures. And they paid me to take those fantasy pictures, not the ordinary, not the sort of real life photos. And so I ended up taking photos because people were paying me for it. And then all of the criticism I've ever gotten as a photographer has been about the photos I take. In other words, well, you don't need to make them like that. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? It's because people paid me to do it. It was never, I never ever in my life dreamed that I'd be taking photos of girls on the beach in bikinis, or that I would be taking photos of girls in lingerie in a hotel room. At no time was that my goal. They're the ones who called me and said, "Come and take my picture, and I'll pay you." Sandy says, "Ha ha ha! I use that one all the time." Fuck you. Yeah, that's right. When people are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what kind of artwork you're doing, no matter what it is, if you get compliments, that's fine. Don't believe those people, because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, because they're not a carver, and they're not a painter, and they're not a photographer. So the people that say you're the cat's ass best photographer they ever saw don't know what the frig they're talking about. And the people, or the best carver they ever saw, they don't know what they're talking about. Clearly they don't, unless in fact you've been doing it for 50 years or something. And the people that say, "Oh, you should have done this, you should have done that," like somebody, I'll give you an example. Somebody said, "You should have taken that photo from a higher perspective." Well, I'm on the beach, and I'm on the beach a mile from where the trail was, and the girl is up in a tree. There's like no possible way, unless I took a ladder, could I ever take it from a higher place. So it's a ridiculous criticism. And because he's not there, the criticism is just stupid. I don't know how else to put that. So what else we got here? I guess you could say wedding photos are fantasy photos, and I could do the fantasy part. But actually, if you go and you do the wedding, most of it is shoot the glasses at the table, the glasses with some wine in it, when they're empty and all shiny, and then when there's some wine in it, and then when there's somebody drinking from one, and then you take another photo of the cake, and you got to get that right. And it's just like a birthday. You got to get the photo with the birthday cake, the candles burning, or the whole. It's a waste of time going there. And even though all the rest of the photos have to be taken, so it's just that there's almost a strict protocol about the photos that are required at a wedding, and the number is about 150 to 200 or 250. It's an enormous number of photos that you have to make sure you took. And then you can do some fantasy ones. But, I did do a wedding, and the bride and the groom drank too much for photos. So they had a great time, but it made it very difficult for a photographer to, take some photos that were always flattering when their actions weren't necessarily flattering. And plans, what is this? And plans heading to Alaska, Eastern Canada in the next few years. Or do I have any? I guess it's any plans. I don't have any plans for like next week. So when you talk in terms of plans, I don't have any. Would I like to go to Alaska? Not really, because the drive from here to Alaska is like 1,500 miles, and it's all the same as my backyard where I've lived all my life. It doesn't change at all. And I've been through, up to, when I say it doesn't change at all, BC is very mountainous and has mountains with snow on it and an ocean. And Alaska, other than its interior, its interior is mountainous with snow and glaciers on top. So it doesn't change much from where I am all the way up to the Aleutian Islands. It's more or less the same kind of topography. The only thing that changes is that at a certain point the trees start getting smaller and smaller until they don't exist. And I'd much rather go south than I'd much rather go east. So I could go east in Canada to the Atlantic, and then down the Atlantic coast, and then back across southern United States and back up the west coast. Like, in other words, circumnavigate the United States. That's something I think I would like to do, but I don't have any plans for it yet. You're laughing at Sunseeker. I got to see what he said. Oh yeah, Sunseeker said it was wedding photos are fantasy. Yeah, a wedding's pretty much a fantasy if you look at it that way. I took it more seriously, but it is funny. Gus, you have a down-to-earth outlook on life, refreshing to see in this day and age. Some of this comes from some of the differences. Like the other day, Jasper did a video about our different ages or different perspectives and stuff. But and just to be clear, I think his questions are appropriate for his age. And when I say that, when we're younger, we're kind of questioning a lot more things than we are when we're older, and we're experiencing a lot more things than we are when we're older. So, being inquisitive about the differences in ages or the different ways in which we would answer the questions he asked is probably, like, the questions came from his age. Those are things that he would be concerned about at his age. And if you notice, basically we all had the same kind of answer for each of those questions, but what was different is only our experiences. And we could all be the same age with different experiences, so we could have all had those similar answers all at the same age. As we get older, we see fewer and fewer differences. One thing I notice now is that when I go to a coffee shop, the richest man in Vancouver will go, "Good morning." I mean, I haven't met him in particular, but what I'm saying is some very rich, very successful people. will accept me just like, no man, just in other words, as an equal. And the reason, even if I drive up in my bus, and the reason is because we all have lived our lives. We're no longer trying to be something else. And what we are is all the same. We're all older, clearly deteriorating to some degree. We all have more or less the same experiences. Like, when we're young, we're confused. When we get a little smarter, we become directed in our lives. We become very serious for a while, and then after a while, we kind of not serious. We're kind of lazily going through life, and then we're maybe retired. Those are the kind of phases that people go through. So Jasper's in the early part where he might be getting serious now, and Chrome's very serious about what he's doing, but still having a lot of fun. And I'm just that lazy old guy that's done it all. So maybe I'm down to earth, but it's got a lot to do with our different generations and the way in which we were brought up. I came through life with no iPads, no iPhones. In fact, a calculator didn't come along till I was graduating from school. I had to use slide rules and that kind of stuff. So I have a different perspective about all the new toys and all the new technology. I do an iPhone, and I put the finger on and can edit. Oh, okay. Brian is talking about his photos or video. Nothing. No, lucky. I don't put anything in tiers. I started to do that, and then I realized it's kind of dumb. People can choose what they would like. The patrons can choose what they would like to and can afford to pay. It comes every month, and I had one in there where at one point, whereas if you paid over $100 a month, then you could you could basically tell me where in the United States you'd like me to shoot a particular girl, and I would travel to them and do it. But that would be like after a year. You had to pay me $1,200 to get me there, meaning I would fly to another country, shoot your girlfriend maybe, and then of course I'd have to fly back. But if somebody wanted me to do that, then they could simply do it as a patron. And even a model who's in California could, instead of paying me directly, could become a patron for 4 or 5 months and end up with a photo shoot. So I kind of used it that way, but it's those would be the tier. That's how I set up the tiers. But shooting people is not really the primary focus of my channel. So maybe it didn't make sense. So now it's just down there. Just pay what you feel like, or join for as much as you like. Yeah, it says at our age, it's all about having bowel movement. From John Mainley. Yeah, that's kind of the truth. But well, the only thing that's really happened to me is I have to pee like 10 times as often. That's about all. I'm up for like 5 times a night peeing. It's kind of comical. Mike Brown, don't think he has. No, I don't have tier patron. I grew up with a long cord on the wall, a wall phone. Well, I was telling Chrome the other day that there was no communication. We had to send a letter, and then along came the telegraph, and we had to go down, and somebody would go down and write on a piece of paper what the message was. They would type it from New York to LA or something, and then they would write it down on a piece of paper, and then a courier would give that guy that piece of paper, and so it would take like a day to send a message. And then we got phones, and we could talk to each other, but we had party lines, so we couldn't stay on the phone and chit-chat all day. We just had a quick conversation about, I'll meet you here at this time type of thing, and then you'd get off the phone because other people may have an emergency, and you don't want to be on there talking about stupid shit when there's somebody up the street had an accident. So you kind of got off the phone to let other people use it politely, right? And then we all got our own phone. We could talk as much as we want, and lots of people did talk a lot. But as soon as we could talk as much as we want, we got answering machines, so we wouldn't miss a call. But that meant that we could get a call and never call back. And then we got call display, so we wouldn't even answer it if we didn't want to talk to that person. And then we got cell phones, and now you can talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime you want. But most people just send a telex, a text, a telex. In other words, they use, or a telegram, I mean. A text is a telegram. So people don't really want to talk to each other. And we went through all those phases in terms of, trying to get people to talk to, giving people the opportunity to talk to each other, and we all like went, yay, we can talk to each other. But now we send texts like we did in the 1850s, something like that. Pretty funny. Lucky, click on become. You guys are talking about how to get connected to my Patreon. Thank you. That'd be really nice. Mike Brown says, remember party lines? I don't really remember them because I wasn't much of a phone user then. By the time I became an adult and started to need the phone to talk to my friends, I think everybody had their own private line. And often we could talk to our friends for like hours sometimes about stuff. When I was younger, I used the phone a lot. Now I almost I get like 2 phone calls a month, and almost nobody uses the phone. It's like a 1990 thing, something since the 2000s. I think everybody's been texting. As long as I've been dealing with my models and stuff, I'm always texting. I'm really surprised when somebody wants to phone me. So I've been on here for 86 minutes. Holy crap. That's an hour and a half. No wonder I'm like thirsty and feeling whiny now. Well, I hope I entertained you guys. I think it's probably time to go. An hour and a half is enough time. It's wasting enough of your time anyway. But thanks for listening, and thanks for coming to visit. And, I don't know when I'm going to do another one, but I enjoy these. These are like a lot easier to do than trying to make a movie, that's for sure. But maybe they're a little bit more boring. Anyway, it's Saturday. Go out and party your butts off or whatever. Find something fun to do. But whatever it is, make sure you're doing something fun and not sort of moping around. So that's it. I'm going to say goodbye. Bye.